Very good. Hey, everybody. It's Kara with the She's the Owner podcast. Welcome to episode 83. We are clipping along and we have with us Alyx, Coble, Frakes. Dang it. I really made an effort to get it right. And so we haven't done a female founder interview in a while. So I'm actually so excited. I haven't, I don't know. I feel like I just shut that part of me down for a while. And now it's like, I need to talk to the ladies. So tell us a little bit. So full disclosure, if you're watching on video, you're going to see a little pack in front of her. She has 2-month-old twins. This woman is crazy. I don't know what she's trying to prove, make us all look bad. But if you're listening and you hear some squawking of babies, you know what's up. And hopefully they'll remain nice and chill while we chat. So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. And also I did speak with your co-founder, Sunny, last week. And so we got to get her on here too.
Heck yeah. So thanks for having me. I'm really excited. First interview postpartum. So very excited to be joining and sharing, whatever I can share that's helpful to the listeners. And also excited to be standing up for working moms who, especially during the pandemic, are having to juggle so much more than even before. Women carry the burden of a lot of unpaid labor. And so just cheers to all the women making it work out there. We see you, we recognize you, we love you. So that's awesome. Yep.
So tell us about, so I talk a lot about, in my coaching practice, I talk a lot about periods and cycling and how, how giant an impact that has on everything that we do as women. I have 4 daughters from the age of 33 to 11. The 11-year-old's about to get her period. She's the last one that's going to get it. And I talk a lot about, it's a boys' club, especially in coaching. And that was one thing that Sunny and I chatted about. And I love the boys. I love Dean Graziosi. I love Tony Robbins. I love all of them. They're not all of them. That's not fair. I like some of them. But it's still a boys' club, and I make jokes like if I hear one more guy say, you don't need 8 hours of sleep, you need 4 hours of sleep, I'm going to flip my shit because it's so far beyond. And by the way, swearing's totally fine on this podcast.
Perfect. Good. I don't want to get kicked off in the first 5 minutes.
I had to establish that early on. So yeah, it's like, we need so many different things. And part of my giant mission is to help women get into their feminine and still crush it in business, because I believe that that's 100% possible. I'm doing it. Lots of other women are doing it. So talk a little bit about the agenda, and what that is and where that came from and how you came to be. And let's kind of start there.
Yeah, I love that. I love, just like right off the bat, I started reading this great book that's called Invisible Women: Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. And so we come to these tools, we come to the world of coaching, we come to the products that are already on the market, not understanding that they're built for a default already that is male. And so we get into these traps. It happened to me. It happens to our clients, where something will be working for me. A tool will be working for me, maybe during the follicular phase, unbeknownst to me. And then I hit the luteal phase and the tool stops working and I automatically assume something's wrong with me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyone else can
I did it this week. Got my period today and everything is right as rain again. I feel great. My business is perfect.
I actually found myself on, as soon as I started my business, every month during the luteal phase, I found myself on job boards, and I didn't even recognize the pattern until but I was on the floor crying. I was absolutely convinced my business would fail. No one would ever hire me to be a coach again. And it was all in the trash. And then 3 days later, oh, I love my business. Everything's great. And I'm like, this keeps happening like a lot and at the same time. So I finally started to understand that cyclical connection. But I think that's just kind of where we start this from, is if you feel guilty, if this seems weird at first, it's because you're not even recognizing maybe that the default patterning is already just male, because we just call it normal. We don't even call it male. So that.
And isn't there, like, I just did a hormone panel and I did a course where she read my panel and we did the Dutch hormone test, and men's hormones are 24 hours. That's their clock.
Yeah.
And if you look around at the world, that makes perfect sense. It's set up for that.
Yeah, the circadian rhythm. And Alyx CVD talks about the infradian rhythm, which is the longer 28 to 35 day cyclical hormonal patterning that is also at play for all of us. But if we have been convinced that normal is being the same every 24 hours, we are never going to feel like we're doing it right.
No, you're fucked. Like that's
Fucked
the only,
from the very beginning.
like there's no other way to say it. Like that's what happens. And you feel like an absolute gong show failure. In every area because you're not getting it. Okay. So tell us about what the agenda is and like what, you know, obviously what inspired
how we
it, but
came to here.
Yeah.
So I started my health coaching company. I have a business degree, but I had always been trained to how to build a business for someone else as an administrator, right? You don't learn about being an entrepreneur. So it's a really different, scary world, particularly given the landscape we just laid out for you all, you know, like all these secret landmines that are buried everywhere that we don't even know to look out for. And so I was having that pattern of boom and bust in my business, feeling great sometimes, and then being convinced it was going to fail, that I would never be a coach, blah, blah, blah. So a mentor of mine recommended that I started to track my sales conversions. I was like, easy, I can do a spreadsheet. When I did that, I found out that, and you may already have found this out or coach on it yourself, but I found that I had higher sales conversions in the ovulation phase of my menstrual cycle. And I was like, what is going on? This is wild. And it led me to consider, when are other times in my business where something feels easier? Because I was in that pattern of thinking I had to do everything every day, right? Like that 24 o'clock, like I had to do sales, marketing, copy, have clients, all of it every single day. So when I found that little connection with ovulation, I thought, what else really takes me longer or is less efficient or more efficient depending on where I'm doing it in my cycle. And I started to see a ton of other patterns emerge. The most shocking one was definitely the money one, right? Like I can make more money depending on when I have these conversations. That is a good tip to know. So I really wanted someone to have mapped it out for me. So I looked for a planner. I was like in a meditation on my period, right? Like that's the intuition was flowing. I was like, man, I need to buy this tool. And I couldn't find it. And so if it existed at the time on the internet, I could not find it. I looked on Amazon. I looked for like multiple weeks because I was ignoring the call just to do it myself because I wanted someone else to do it. But finally, when I didn't find the tool I was looking for, I asked Sunny if she wanted to make up a planner with me. She was a fertility coach. She was using cycle syncing for other areas of her clients' lives. And she's like, I'm not doing that for my business. Why am I not doing that for my business? I was like, girl, I don't know. Why aren't any of us doing this for our business? So we set out to make the agenda period, which I actually do have a copy of it right here. So this is the hard copy, very beautiful, very empowering colors. So we did a beta test with other women in business, mostly predominantly health coaches, did a Kickstarter in 2019, made the hard copy planner, took the show on the road, went to meet people all around the country. And they're like, great. So when's the app coming out? And I was like,
oh, yes.
Do you know how hard it was to do this thing, this paper thing that you have in front of you? You know how many hours that took me? I was like, I don't know. I'm not a tech founder. I'm not doing that. They're like, well, you should. And so after person number 1000 tells you, hey, like, where's the thing? And I was like, I guess we'll make the thing. And so
gotta make the thing.
2020 was like a whole adventure on getting into a business accelerator, really sharpening our skills, and going down the path of app development. So that's the snapshot of the agenda period and kind of where we are year to date.
Amazing. I've built an app. It's not easy. It's quite frustrating.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that.
It's tough. So cheers to any app developers out there. Y'all have a tough job.
So when you think about what, you know, part of like, as you're talking, my mind is going crazy. Like how do you foresee the app working? Like, is it just any woman, or are you going, like, here's how I could see it working for my coaching practice would be, I'm going to get everybody an agenda planner for sure. Any of my clients, but can you sort of, when you think about pie in the sky for the business, what does it look like for you?
It looks like millions of users every month, like starting off for women in business, but really, because that's one of the things we hear all the time. Well, that's great, but Alyx, I can't change my schedule because the world isn't set up that way. But again, like we talked about, the world is set up about the default of male, and I don't need the default to be female. We want to disrupt the market in a way where there's room for both.
Right.
So the goal is, pie in the sky is global menstrual equity in a way that is a little different than a lot of companies talk about it. So people talk about global menstrual equity, meaning everyone who has a period has access to menstrual supply so that they can have a period with dignity. What it also means to us, so that's like level 1. Level 2 is every cyclical person has access to the information about how their biology works, because we know how the male biology works, and I don't even have those hormones. So everyone should at least have access to that information. And then third, that everyone can get empowered and choose to live an embodied cyclical way, if that makes sense for them. So that within my lifetime, every cyclical person on the planet meets all 3 of those criteria, has access to the supplies, education, and empowerment that it comes with having this hormonal programming. Because without periods, we wouldn't have more people on the planet. So
I know it's like, here's the thing that I find interesting about these conversations. It's easy, I think, for women, like there's 2 sort of sides to it. It's easy for women who call themselves feminists. Like feminists, to be honest, are some of the most masculine energy creatures on the planet. Like they think their female energy is flowing. It is not. They are incredibly masculine. And it's like, it's easy to get wound up as a woman and be like, why the fuck isn't there space for my period, you know, and get like into that. But there has to be this balance, because I don't even think, like, I think when you have the conversation with a man, they're like, oh, like not all of them, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are like, holy shit, I didn't even realize that. And they might, like, I know in my environment, so my husband and I, we still live together. We're raising the younger one together. We're separated. We have separate rooms and everything. He's my best friend. We co-founded companies together. It's all hunky dory. He makes jokes though. Like my nickname when I'm PMSing is Gwen. Okay. And I'm 45 on Sunday. I can handle that, having to give me a separate name. But I get pretty amped with him when he's making jokes to the kids. And the reason for that is because their condition, like he's not malicious. He's the most gentle creature you'll ever meet, but they've been conditioned to make fun of it. They've been conditioned to talk shit about it. They've been conditioned to say it's bad. We are not like, and it's the opposite in my house, but like, do you think, you know, because it feels like it's time for us to shut them up really with their conversation around this topic. And do you feel like when you talk about this to men, for example, are they like, holy shit? Because like, just imagine if every woman on the planet, in business, in a boardroom, in a whatever, understood this, and the men understood it, and the men could look and say, you know, Alyx is in week 3. It makes sense why she's talking like that. I'm going to give her space for that. I'm going to honor that, instead of saying, why are you so fucking emotional? Like, can you imagine? Like, that's, to me, that type of world is way more powerful than fighting it. But when you think about or have the conversations with men around this topic, what do you get back from them? Do you have to correct them a lot? Do you have to say, listen, don't talk about menstruation like this? Like, give me a sense of how that conversation looks for you.
I think there are a lot of jokes about it, because just like we aren't always conscious that the default is male, men are also not conscious that the default is male, and they don't even understand that there's this other programming at play. So some guys are like, wow, that's an amazing growth hack. Do you have something like that for me? That's like one of the responses.
Wow. It's all about them. Damn it. No, I'm just saying.
I was like, can we just have one thing? You don't need to go off my period. Like, come on now. And maybe there is, but my hands are full. So if you want a project, go for it. Like, you can figure that out. But I think and then I get a lot asked, like, how can I support? Like, that's really interesting. How can I support? So I'm like, we need more allies. And I think the reason that men joke about it is, if you think back, I don't know what your health education was like in school, but mine was like a mess. And it was like a couple classes in 5th and 6th grade, but men and women, or boys and girls at that time, were separated. Yeah. And boys got different stuff. They got different information. And then we also look at the landscape of leadership in politics, in companies right now. And it's still, the default is male. Almost like 90% of the world is still run by men. But men very early on were taught very clearly that they should not talk about menstruation in a serious way. Right. That they should not be a part of the conversation, that they were not welcome into the conversation. And in fact, it's really awkward if they are around that conversation. Right. So I think it's hard for them to know how to talk about it in a way that's helpful and supportive. And so that's what I tell men all the time. We need more allies. We need more men normalizing this. And if you do it right, you are going to gain a tremendous benefit from understanding the women in your life this way. They will thank you. You will thank you. And so actually I have some male coaching clients who are like, oh yeah, I started tracking every woman in my life. I started tracking their cycle, like women I'm close to, and it's made our interpersonal relationships better because I know what kind of approach I should use during different times. And it's just like, yes, the whole planet could be like that, where we have space for that. So those are kind of the two funny responses I get. Oh, the third response to our company is, oh, like that's like an interesting idea, but it's too niche of a product. That's like,
hey, like, I'm sorry, what?
Like, yeah. So niche, only over half of the population has a period at some point, and it's a continuously renewable market. You're right. So niche.
So niche. Yeah. You better just put it all down and do something else, honey, because that's too, wow. Okay. So when you talk about, that's part of the thing, I think, my mission is to impact 20,000 women this year and have them really start to dip into their heart and not just in their heads, because that's part of it, right? Like, I think, and that's the underbelly of problem, I think, for women, is that when I would get, like, in my luteal phase, right? I'm tired, I'm slowing down, I'm not feeling as energized, all of those things. But because I'm watching the men and I'm watching the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world and the Tony Robbins of the world, and I'm like, I gotta fucking hustle. I gotta do it at the same pace as they are. And the real talk, it can be very problematic for us physically. Like, so I did this program about the Dutch hormone results, and I found out what my estrogen is, my progesterone, my DHEA, and my cortisol and my adrenals. And if I don't learn to shut the hunter off, the masculine off, I will get cancer someday. And that's a fact. And how many women are going around town like that without even having the first idea that my body was telling me, but I was like, no, I got to do it. I got to be 100% all the time. And so for decades, I'd go 100% all the time. And now I know the information. And I mean, we're very, we drink celery juice, organic, blah, we're doing all the things. We've done them all. But it was the obsession with trying to keep up with the guys at the same level for 28 days every single friggin' month that created the problem. And I think, like, how many young women, I mean, you look way younger than me, so like, how many women in your category will have cancer when they're 50 because they overdid it and didn't pay attention to their cycles? Lots. I've got my sister-in-law just got a 20-pound tumor removed from her belly. She has no kids. She's in her 30s. It's pre-cancerous, but she's in her masculine. She's driving her body into this state. And if we knew, and I like, this work you're doing is so critical. It's everything, I think. Like, I'm telling you, I think, the more of us that stand up together like this, it has to change. And your cycle is a part of this. There's parts, like when you're PMSing, for example, there are decisions you make you wouldn't make 3 weeks out of the other 3 weeks. How many women have fired people? How many women have done things they really regret during that chunk of time? How many have ended their lives? How many have ended their businesses? Right? Like, this is no joke. Some women get way worse symptoms than me or whoever. So when you think about, like when you talk about women in business, is this the first thing you talk to them about? Is this, tell me a little bit about kind of how you broach the subject. Are they all like, yes, this is important? Or are they like, well, I don't really know? Or like, what's the sense that you get from these women?
I just speak from my own experience, and speak from the experience that we've had other people open up to, because I think there is so much stigma and shame because we've had to keep up with this programming and this processing. And we've even had women say, like older women in their 60s or 70s are like, well, I just have to deal with it, so I don't know why it should be different now. And I'm like, just because you survived it, my love, does not mean it needs to stay
You
this
didn't
way.
thrive. You didn't thrive.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think there is that, and there's that lack of trust, because hating our bodies and hating the menstrual cycle all kind of plays in together. And when we realize how much anxiety is created by this, like so many women we've worked with say they've had anxiety every single month their entire life during their period, afraid of bleeding through in public, afraid of being taken the wrong way. And when we look at spending an average of 8 years of our lives menstruating, just the bleed part, like think of how much lost potential and energy and
Crazy.
in you know, and everything there is when we exemplify and amplify that out by billions of women on the planet.
It's
Right.
crazy.
For all of time. So we just try to come to this with curiosity and open it up, the conversation, like, this is what's worked for us. What's resonating for you? Are you hearing anything in my story that reminds you of your own story? And typically women are like, oh my God, I have the same fight with my husband every single month. I'm like, hello, luteal phase.
Yep.
Or hello, intentional discernment. Maybe there's something you need to work on there. Maybe there's a boundary that you're missing somewhere.
Right.
So we're just really trying to open it up that way and letting people come to it in the way that makes the most sense for them, because there is so much shame and a need for permission giving, which is why we really want other women to be talking about this, to share the message, because when I give myself permission, it gives other people permission to explore it as well. So that's why we know, in order to help save the planet, this needs to be a global mission.
I could not agree with you more. And I say that, the thing I say often to anybody who will listen is that, because I do, like, for me, there's still the connection to the feminine divine. This is it. Like, our cycle is the epitome of feminine divine. I mean, it's everything. And when we can shift the way that, because it has to start with us, right? Like, you and I are great. We understand it, but there's millions and millions of women who still, that I know, who are just going mental and just like totally hustle. But people that are not in their hearts, even women, they, somebody in their hearts doesn't kill anybody. They don't put airplanes into buildings. They don't put a knee on a man's throat till he dies. They don't rape children. They don't sell them for sex slavery. Like, people, when they're in there, but we have to start the conversation. And it starts here. It starts talking about our bodies, talking about, like, we make life, for crying out loud. Yeah. Like, why are we back here quiet? And again, it's like that balance. I'm not saying, and I brought the feminist thing because there are a lot of angry women who are feminists, and it's not like that, because I think men just want to be, men just want to be the mature masculine wants to be our hero. And if we can make them our ally, the whole thing will shift. It's not just a period, is kind of what I mean. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's owning that femininity. It's doing shamanic dancing at certain times of your cycle. It's doing breath work. It's doing all those gorgeous things. But as we do that, we sort of, the pink bubble kind of, it radiates, and then everybody's in the conversation, and things get calmer and things get more beautiful. So I love the work that you're doing, and Sunny is doing. And I think it's a game changer. And I can't even remember who I was talking to. I think it was somebody on Facebook, and she mentioned you guys, and I was like, oh, what? Because I talk about this. I'm obsessed with talking about cycling. And she's like, you've got to check these girls out. And I did. And oh my gosh, I'm so happy that we connected. How are the babies doing?
Babies are good. I'll maybe just like give a sneak peek at the end, but Estelle keeps spitting out her pacifier. I say she's going to be my boss someday. Like this little lady, she's going to run circles around all of us. And Margot is like keeping it calm and keeping the beat steady. So, they definitely are keeping me on my toes, but I feel this even more strongly right now, the desire to fix the planet, like with these two little humans under my care and in my family, and just knowing that there is space for all of that. And I have a really healthy relationship with my husband where we do have that balance, and there's space for the masculine and feminine, and that neither one outshines, and everyone demonstrates characteristics of both of them. So right. But there's so much of this boxing in that really makes everyone small and really creates a lot of these problems on the planet. Like with that hustle mentality that you were talking about, when we follow the cycle, we are just as productive. It
Yep.
just looks different. Like I get as much done as I did before, but I feel good.
Yep.
Like
I
it doesn't
love that
ever,
you said that.
doesn't everyone want that? Like I don't do less work. I do just as much work, but it takes me less time and I am healthier.
Yeah. Yep. There's like,
That's what's on offer for all of us.
during my ovulation, I will go 16 hours a day and not even worry, like not even blink. This week, it's like, maybe 6, maybe it's 4 and some Netflix later on.
Heck
But
yeah.
I don't punish myself anymore. That's the biggest thing is I stopped because I figured it out. I thought, holy shit, this is going to pass in a couple of days. Okay. Like it just will.
Because how much energy and time, literal time, was wasted by punishing yourself? Like how many hours did we lose? All of us, again, just like what I talked about, 8 hours bleeding. Well, what about the PMS, the premenstrual? Like all of this time just sucks us out of our creativity, out of our joy. And that's not in the best interest of anyone.
No, it's it for sure isn't,
So
especially
it's about the period and not. It's about like true embodied living and freedom and a new path forward.
Yeah. Well, you guys are exceptional. I'm so happy we connected. So where can people find you if they want to? Is the app ready? Is it, I know it's close.
So close. It's so close. Yes. It has been a labor of love and some challenging times, but we are looking at a MVP launch in March. So by the end of March, so there's a pre-order up on our website, theagendaperiod.com. Like I mentioned, we have the physical product out right now, as well as a PDF version if you want to like dip your toe in and start getting curious about that, because we just really recommend that people start to track and become their own authority on their bodies, because that's definitely something we're not encouraged to do as women, is become our own authority, right? We're constantly looking outside of ourselves. So really flipping that script and just encouraging people to get into themselves. Facebook, theagendaperiod.com, Twitter, Instagram, all of the social medias, LinkedIn, wherever you want to find us. We're happy to connect and answer questions.
I will say one thing too. So how old are you then?
I'm 29.
Oh my God. Like my kids are older than you, one of them. So I'm 45. Like I said, I'm turning 45 on Sunday. And here's what's interesting is in the last probably 5 years, the luteal phase and my ovulation have started to switch. And that's something women who are perimenopausal, because you can do that for 10 years, right? Yeah. And maybe food for thought for you and some other type of agenda, because it does switch. So now when PMS, like during ovulation, I would have been like, wanting to get me some. And now it's like a period. It's like I get cramps. All of the things that you would get normally in your luteal phase are happening in ovulation. Now the mood is similar, but it's interesting because my body's shutting down the option, right? It's like, okay, well, you're not supposed to make babies anymore. Your reproductive days are nearing the end. But so that's an interesting thing that happens. And I have a naturopathic doctor, and I went to her and I said, listen, like, what the hell is, and she's like, it's totally normal. All my patients that are 40 and up are starting to have this conversation where they're not feeling like they want to have sex. They're not horny at this stage in the game. They're more this, and this. And I said, holy shit. And it's true. It does happen. But it's an interesting thing to start to witness, because there's a lot of women my age too who are starting businesses, right? Because they've done the corporate thing. I've been in business since I was young, 20. Like I've always had my own business, a version of it. But like a lot of them get to the stage where they're done. They don't want to work for somebody else. And so it'd be an interesting conversation to see how their cycles are shifting at perimenopause. I know I just gave you a whole new project.
I love it. Yeah, we definitely, that's the goal, is to really help do global menstrual equity, is to build out a hormonal health hub where we're kind of doing both ends, the lower end, much younger women, and then older women. In the agenda, we have the moon cycle spread that's in there. So even women who are no longer cycling, they can follow along with the moon energy and really use that as their rhythm or their kind of guideposts along the way. So our goal is truly to support no matter what women are going through.
That's awesome.
But we're going to be able to use that data to help women inform and understand and expand the conversation. So excited for women of all ages and stages to get their hands on this app. It's going to be amazing.
Awesome. All right. Well, you keep me posted on when the app is launching, because I'm super interested and I'm serious. Like I will, every client that signs with me, we'll get one of your agendas, like the paper ones, because you know, it just has to be that way. That's really how I feel about this. So, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming here and having this chat. And I even more so because you have twin babies there, and that's crazy. I don't know how you're doing that. I'm usually like, I can do anything with a baby. I'm like, but a podcast with twins, that's a challenge. Girlfriend, you put me to shame. That's not makeup and a shower. That's different. All right. We'll talk soon. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.